Hey everybody, this is Jilla, and my guest today is the absolutely incredible, amazing, Grammy Award winning Steve Cox, piano player extraordinaire, B3 badass, and I'm giving you a little bit of a pre-introduction because, as is the case with some of my guests, they just start into these amazing stories and I just hit record. So that's the way Steve and I started. But I wanted to let you know he's won a Grammy with the Dazz Band in 1982. He's been playing piano for Trisha Yearwood since 1996. Recently played on the arena tour that they went on. You know, her husband, you may have heard of him, Garth Brooks. He also played with the amazing Alison Krauss. This is a really, really fun and just interesting and full of joy and love interview. And stick around, the incredible Mr. Steve Cox. Hey everyone, it's me, Jilla Webb, your host of Walking with Porpoise. Here with my guests to help you develop your foundation of purpose and fine-tune the 4 pillars of success: practice, performance, presence, and peace. Let's get started.
Because if you've ever taken a razor blade to somebody's 24-track 2-inch master so that you can make the second verse of the second take become the second verse of the first take, and you have to do all this cutting precisely, stuff that takes you, a mouse click right now that you can Command Z and undo. Yeah, that ain't for sissies. That ain't.
Yeah, God forbid you get it wrong.
I would rock a reel. I'd put it on the playheads and rock the reel back and forth on the kick drum downbeat 100 times to make sure I had it right. Mark it with grease pencil, say a little prayer, and cross my fingers and cut the damn thing with a razor blade. And then find the end of it and cut the other end and then splice a second take into it. And then you just hope and hope and hope and hope. Because otherwise, at 30 inches per second, you're going to be cutting off a tiny little sliver of tape to splice back in that you cut too deep.
Yeah, I've watched that process and I thought I was going to have an aneurysm. I can't imagine actually doing it.
It was fun to do it on a practice reel once, but for real,
right?
It ain't for the faint-hearted. I don't miss it. I don't miss a thing about it.
Except the sound.
I guess.
I mean, there's something about 2-inch tape that just sounds different.
Well, probably so. I really think, no kidding, that there's something about 16-track 1-inch tape that just gets saturated, but I never got to record on 1-inch 16-track.
Yeah.
It was always 24-track 2-inch. And man, it was the 1-inch, it gets like slammed. It gets slammed magnetically onto the tape.
Yeah.
But they just wear out and they die after a while. Tapes go away.
Yeah.
So I heard that when Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis went to remaster Janet Jackson's 1814, 1816, whatever the name of that with Rhythm Nation.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
They had to literally bake in an oven the master reel.
Oh my God.
To get it to solidify long enough for one pass to play one pass and dump that straight into Pro Tools and work on it from there.
Oh my God.
Because the tape was literally coming apart. It falling apart.
That's crazy. That's just crazy. Yeah, but it disintegrates, right? I mean,
it does over time. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even stored in the best conditions, over time it'll just go away.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty wild. Well, we can start. I've actually been recording, and I may use some of that because that was pretty cool. Surprise!
Surprise.
So I just want to introduce my next guest. I'm so happy that you're here. Grammy Award winning pianist and just you're just a cool dude. You're the king of badassery, I think I said once, and I really mean it. Mr. Steve Cox, thank you so much for being here with me tonight.
Hi, Jilla. Hi, everybody. I'm glad to be here.
Oh, this is going to be awesome. You've had such an amazing career. And I mean, the Grammy stuff happened, but there's so many things that you did before that. You have so much to share with our listeners. And like we were talking before, you're a musician that works for artists, which is
Correct.
what a lot of musicians, young, aspiring, talented musicians, they want to be able to do.
Right.
So how did that start? Like, how did you start? Why don't we just start there?
I mean, the short answer is I don't know, but I think I can elongate that answer and tell you. I mean, probably like every other kid, I started on drums. The first time I heard a drum kit live, I mean, I'd heard drums on records.
Yeah.
But I heard a kid play at my seventh grade talent show in grade school one day. And I just lost my mind at the sound of the drums live. I just couldn't believe it. I immediately got into band playing snare drum, and I never did have a drum kit. But not long after that, I was hearing tunes on the radio that I was really in love with and really in love with the sound. And turns out that sound was Hammond organ, Hammond B3 specifically. And my parents had bought this little plastic chord organ. It had chord buttons. It had F and B flat and C, and also had, G minor and D minor and A minor. So you could press the button, and then there was a keyboard part too over on the right-hand side. So I'd press the button for B flat, and just on the keyboard side, I would just finger around until I found the notes that were the same as the sound the button was making.
Right.
So now I know, okay, well, that's B flat in my right hand now. So that's organ in quotes, and this is how goofy a kid I was. We had this plastic organ made by Magnus.
Right.
It probably cost $20 at a department store.
Right.
And I was playing it all the time, and all of a sudden I'm hearing Booker T and the MGs. I'm hearing Green Onions. I'm hearing Steve Winwood do "Give Me Some Love," and I'm hearing Jimmy Smith. I'm hearing the great jazz organ players. I'm hearing Vanilla Fudge, and I'm hearing all these psychedelic, Hammond organ parts on records. And I'm so goofy that I'm sitting there wondering, like, well, this is an organ, and that's organ on the record. Why doesn't this sound like the record? Because I thought organ was organ. I had no idea what I was talking about until some buddies of mine dragged me to a hippie all ages club. And this rock band, I'll never forget the name. Are you ready for this? The band was called the Cardboard Box, BACHS.
Oh, my God.
Think they were hippies?
Just a little.
The Cardboard Box. So I'm there. I'm just in the crowd, and this guy walks out and sits behind this big wooden thing with two other big wooden things with spinning speakers in them. And as soon as he played it, I just looked up at the stage and I went, that thing, what that thing is, whatever that thing is, that's the sound. I got to have that thing. What is that thing?
Yeah.
And it turns out it's Hammond B3. And I'm that same 15-year-old kid when I play and when I hear it, because that sound is amazing. He had a B3 and two Leslies.
Ooh. And
it was just throwing sound everywhere. Huge, glorious, magnificent, organ.
So how did you, because that's not just like, hey, everybody's got a B3 and a Leslie in their house. Like where did you go to learn how to play this thing?
Well, I didn't have a Hammond for a long time, but I got to tell you a funny story about that. One day, not long after that, I'm just walking down the street in my neighborhood, a couple blocks over. This is in Indianapolis on the south side. And I'm walking by, and remember, I'd seen this band now, and this thing was in my head. I'm walking by, and I see this big picture window in a house, and sitting in the front room was a Hammond organ.
Wow.
And a tall boy, Leslie, a real tall Leslie. And I just stopped and looked at it. And of course, because I'm a goofy kid, I just walked up to the house and knocked on the door. And nice lady answered, and I go, hi, can I play that? And she let me in.
Oh my God.
She let me in and turned it on for me, because there's a trick to turning on Hammond organ.
Sure.
There ain't just an on button.
Yeah,
so
right.
She fired it up for me and pulled out some drawbars, and she let me play it for a little while. And I came back and a couple of times, and then finally she stopped letting me in the house. But I can imagine that today, right? You just let some strange, goofy kid in your house to play the instrument that he saw in the window.
Yeah, that would not happen today.
So I don't know. I just kept playing and bugged my parents for a better organ, and they got me a Thomas organ, and that had the keyboard numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I forget where it ended, but that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 was C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So I was learning intervals, fifths, thirds, fourths, just by looking at them on a keyboard. And so I had really good ears, and I could pick out chords pretty well. Finally, I got a Hammond organ and played for, this is the west side of Indianapolis. I played, you kids, you dang kids, listen up. I played in a rock band in a bar. I'm 20 years old. Played in a rock band at a rough club on the west side of Indianapolis. We played 6 nights a week.
Yeah.
6 sets a night. We played from 9 until 3.
God.
On Saturday, we had to come in for a jam session 4 to 7 where any drunk could sit in.
Oh, my God.
Then I had to hit again at 9 until 3, had Sunday off. I did that for a year and a half, and I did it for $120 a week.
Oh, my God.
But guess what I was doing 6 hours a night,
Yeah.
6 nights a week? I was playing Wurlitzer electric piano, and I was playing Hammond organ, and I was getting really good.
Learning your craft. Yeah.
The rubber meets the road way. I mean, we're doing Jeff Beck tunes and Jethro Tull, and we were kind of a rock band and not doing much popular stuff. I mean, we were rocking. We were doing the band. The guitar player and leader really liked the band a lot. We did a lot of their tunes.
Yeah.
We did a lot of Rod Stewart stuff, anything that was rocking at the time, and I was just learning all about Hammond. And I left there when there was a shooting one night. So while I was there.
Ugh. Right. Well, so that's a rough neighborhood you're in there.
Oh, it was rough.
But
because that was an old hillbilly bar before us, and we drew in all the bikers and the serious rough guys.
Yeah.
So bikers meeting truckers was kind of a volatile mix.
I went into a club once in North Dakota that had just changed from a metal club, like heavy metal club, and we were a R&B act with 3 girls up front from Minneapolis.
I wish I could have been in the audience that night.
We worked the first night, and the club owner came up to us and afterwards and said, here's a week's pay. You guys might want to leave.
Oh my gosh.
And we did. We've never packed up so quickly. We got out and we left town.
Yeah.
So, all right, I got to ask, because I've, been reading some stuff on you over the last couple of days. So how do you get from this club to Murph and the Magic Tones?
Wait, who's Murph and the Magic Tones? That's a name. That's a new one on me.
Really? That says in the article somewhere that you played with a band called Murph and the Magic Tones. Is that a misprint?
It is, and I don't know a Murph except for my brilliant and only Hammond organ tech. Yeah, he's
in Nashville. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a guy named Murph Wonka.
Yeah.
And he's probably a pretty good player himself, but I've never played music with him. I just call him when something is broken on my Leslie. So,
well, but then what do you, so you're playing around the area, and then you play in what other kinds of bands? Because it wasn't, you didn't go right from that club into Daz Band.
No, after the shooting. The shooting, I'd had enough of that. So, I got with a female singer who had a trio. She had a sit-down gig. That's some inside baseball talk there. Sit-down gig means we were doing, 4 or 5 nights a week at a hotel, Holiday Inn hotel.
Right.
So, I went from a rough redneck bar to a hospitality, they were called back then, a hospitality hotel.
Right.
And she was very statuesque, good singer, very good-looking girl, and that was a big part of her appeal, I'm sure, to the businessmen we played for, right? But I'm starting to more and more to get into jazz and big, wide voicings and all this stuff. And so it was a trio, me, bass, drums, her. And she told us, this is still Indianapolis, she said, look, they want us to move to Cleveland and circulate 3 different hotels that owned by the same company, 3 different hotels that circulate a month at a time for a year. So I said to my teenage bride that I had at the time, I was 20 years old too. I said, look, let's just move to Cleveland. I mean, why should we keep a place here in Indianapolis?
Right.
Let's just move. And a friend of mine told me in Indianapolis, he goes, Cleveland, huh? That's the only place down from here. And I was like, oh my God.
Oh no, sorry, Cleveland.
I didn't know anything about Cleveland at the time. So,
right.
But we moved there to rotate these 3 hotels. Started off great. They loved us. After the first rotation, they said, you guys are done. So here I am. We got fired. She got married, not interested in playing anymore.
Oh, wow.
Which is a whole other can of worms. But
right.
So I was like, what are we going to do? So I took the other 2 guys, started my own trio. We were doing jazz stuff. We're doing Steely Dan stuff. We're doing whatever we wanted to do. Meantime, started working at a music store as a salesman.
Mm-hmm.
And the guys from Daz Band came in looking to buy a synthesizer. I demonstrated the synth. They asked me to come in the studio to program that synth for their keyboard player.
Oh, that's
which
cool.
I did.
Mm-hmm.
That was on the album called Let the Music Play. That's the Motown album.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't play on that album, but I just programmed all the synth sounds. Then I don't know what happened with him and them, but after a while they asked me to come and join the band, which I did. And we rehearsed for 5 or 6 weeks, this record. Then we went in the studio and cut it, and Let It Whip came out of that. The first single off of that album called Keep It Live.
Mm-hmm.
And that thing was a monstrous hit. I still hear it. To this day, I hear it. It's 40 years old.
Wow. I mean, it's a great song. There's no doubt about it. And that's the record, that's the song that won the Grammy.
Yeah, the Grammy is Best R&B Performance by a Duo or Group with Vocal 1982.
Wow.
And because of the category, we each got a trophy. And so we did Soul Train that afternoon. No, we did Solid Gold that afternoon, went straight from Solid Gold in LA straight to the Grammy Awards. Our category was in the pre-telecast ceremonies.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as we got into the theater, they called our category. We got up, won the damn thing. And so by the time we went back out into the crowd, and by the time the show started airing, we were sitting there with Cheshire Cat grins because we'd already won. So at one point I'd gone into the men's room, and I'm standing in the men's room doing men's room stuff. And David Page from Toto is standing next to me. He goes, Daz, man, yeah, man, we voted for you guys.
That's awesome.
It's like, oh, cool. When we went up to get the trophy, I mean, they were all in the front row because they won 7 trophies that night.
Wow.
That was the Rosanna album.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, what a great year. What a great album that was, too.
They won everything. So, and that started a huge tour opening for Rick James and Kool and the Gang. We toured with Kool and the Gang a lot.
Wow.
Cameo, Luther Vandross, all the cool jazz festivals.
Yeah.
You name it. And we just went to Europe 4 times and working that record to death. So
what was that like? I mean, you went from these hotel bands,
yep,
pretty much, and then landed in this thing. I mean, as still a young man, that must have just been like, holy crap.
Yeah,
What was it like?
It's my late 20s, and I had not experienced anything on that level before. So it was buses and tours and one-nighters, and man, we were busy. We played on rented gear to open a cool festival in Houston on rented gear. And as soon as we were done, we got a police escort to the airport, jumped on a private jet, flew to Atlanta to open the Cool Jazz Festival in Atlanta on our own gear that was there and already set up.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So I felt like a rock star.
That's got to be amazing, but also exhausting.
It is exhausting, and I'm not sure. Do you think that kind of touring really exists anymore? I honestly don't know, because I haven't done it like that. I mean, I have I've done those kind of venues, but not that kind of schedule.
Yeah.
I mean, bang, bang, tonight, Toledo, tomorrow night, Grand Rapids, next night, Indianapolis, next night, Detroit, and so on, right? We did that for months at a time.
Yeah. Well, I think it's, I mean, clearly COVID has really thrown a giant monkey wrench into all touring, but I think touring like that is going to come back. I mean, artists are definitely building longer and longer tours, and indie artists are being able to back tours like that, and that's happening. I think the indie scene is really where that kind of touring schedule is really becoming strong again.
Seems like they have to. I mean, I know there's a lot of aging rockers who are touring that don't really want to, but because of the streaming thing and digital downloads and nobody buying actual product anymore, they have to tour and don't want to.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like it. I mean, I've been playing with Trisha Yearwood since 96. So, wow, that's a long time. And she loves 2,500, 3,000 seat arenas,
right?
Because it's intimate. She's got a lot of tender, rip your heart out ballads. And she plays very well to that size audience. And she's happy doing that size of crowd. And frankly, so am I. But playing with Garth Brooks, I mean, we played 15,000 seat arenas every night, and you're not connecting with anybody past the first 4 rows on a personal sort of level. It's all about the spectacle and the lights and the experience. And you know what I mean? It's not about, we couldn't do any tender ballads. The only ballad we did with Trisha on the Garth tour was How Do I Live?
It's a big vocal thing, right?
It's huge, and there's a big sing-along section that she kind of put into it. But other than that, ballads don't really play in front of 15,000 unless you're. Now Garth can do it with just an acoustic guitar. Excuse me, post-COVID, and I mean he can. If Tomorrow Never Comes and just him and an acoustic guitar, and it's amazing what he can do. But it's rare for him. I mean, he doesn't do that very often. It's sledgehammer stuff. So,
well, that's really interesting, and I tell all my students this is that you have to pick your shows and your songs and your set list to play to the venue and to play to the audiences that will come. Like it's a different audience that might come to a 2,500 seat arena versus a 50,000 seat arena.
There's 3 words to explain that exactly. You know what they are.
Go ahead.
Read the room.
Read the room. Yeah.
Right. I mean, you can't do tender ballad stuff to 15,000 people who it's hard to do. Not many people can do that.
Yeah.
I'm sure Elton John could. I've seen Luther Vandross do it. I watched him do it. We opened for him in Hampton, Virginia, and when he sang "A House Is Not a Home," you could have heard a pin drop in a 15,000 seat hockey arena.
Yeah,
it's amazing, but not many people can do that.
He's got a crowd that expects that too, I think.
True enough, that was a big hit for him.
Yeah, I mean, those are his fans, and his people expect that. I think that the same kind of thing with Alison Krauss. She has this amazingly just beautiful, pure voice, and it's so quiet that. But she commands it.
I played with Alison the whole summer of 2007, and we spent a week rehearsing, and one whole day of that week was nothing but monitor mixes.
Wow.
Because there was all acoustic instruments on there except for mine. Now I had an electronic piano in a baby grand case, and I had my B3 and Leslie, but everybody else is playing acoustic instruments with microphones. And so I got Murph, the magic tone guy, to come and make my Leslie nice and loud, but absolutely quiet if I was not playing it,
right.
No hum, no buzz, no nothing. And he did that. And she's I've run out of words for Allison a long time ago.
Incredible just doesn't do it justice. She is, yeah.
As big a star as she is one of us. She is a musician, and she's got a magnificent instrument in her throat and a magnificent instrument in her hands with that fiddle. And she never missed a single sound check the entire summer of 2007. Not one.
Wow.
Not one ever. So she knew what she wanted, and we worked hard on getting it. So
yeah,
that band, it was just amazing. I don't have enough superlatives for how much I love that band.
Yeah. And I think,
so,
you know, I hear this story from these really big, giant, iconic superstars and artists that they're there. They're present. They work hard. There's nobody that works hard, and they expect a lot, but that's because they give a lot.
Yep.
Every one of them.
No question about it. And I find that I think that's really true. The best musicians, singers, the best people are the most kind of humble and hardworking, and take nothing for granted and work at their craft. Because, and it's not because, I mean, it's a work ethic, yeah, but I think before that, it's love. I love what I do. The old stupid cliche is absolutely true. Find something you love and you won't have to work a day in your life. I've never had a job other than working in a music store and a foundry.
Yeah. And a foundry.
Other than that, I've worked as a recording engineer, and I've played and I have sacrificed, and I mean, that's remember $120 a week. So
yeah, well, you do what you do because, like you said, you love it. And again, that's, I think when we've talked about this, you have to find your purpose. You have to find that why you're in this, because it's a very long haul. And sometimes, you know, you're playing these great shows and sometimes you're making $120 a week. You have to know why you're here.
I mean, it sounds corny, but I swear to you, it is true. I play exactly. There's no difference in what you get out of me on stage if I'm playing at a county fair or if I'm playing, you know, Carnegie Hall, and I've done both. And it's the same. The people that come to the county fair are going to get my best because that's what I do. I mean, it's for me in a way, and it's certainly for whatever artist I'm playing for. It's definitely for them, but I'm playing the best I can at all times because it's a gift that God has given me, and I'm going to give it the best I have every time.
That's amazing. That's so well spoken. Thank you.
I can't hold back, and I wouldn't hold it back because why again? I mean, really? Oh, there's only 10 people in the crowd here. I mean, that's one thing that stopped me from playing jazz and stopped me from being a jazz martyr, by the way, if you don't mind me saying this, right?
Nope, that's okay.
There was a time there before I came to Nashville, which would have been 90, 91, 92. Where I was playing in jazz quartets and quintets, and I was playing with female singers too. But I was a big, air quotes, jazz artist. It's like
right. That guy.
So we're playing, and I've noticed that who's coming into the club to hear us is other musicians I know and their girlfriends. And I would go to hear their bands, and it would be me and a few other musicians and our girlfriends. And after a while, I was like, it's like musical. Forgive the word. It's like musical masturbation after a while. It's like scales and licks and listen how I navigate this 2-5-1 progression and for the millionth time in this old chestnut of a jazz tune, right?
Right.
And after I just decided I did not want to be a freaking jazz martyr anymore.
Yeah.
And this was after the success in Dad's band after I quit it. So I was like, what's the point? I mean, I can't play as good as huge long list of people. Name them: Bill Evans, Chick Corea, Herbie Hancock. I mean, I'm never going to be able to play that well. And what am I doing this for? To have some guy come up to me after the set and go, yeah, dude, man, I really enjoyed the way you played that bridge section of the. Like, okay, great, thanks. It's like in the meantime, there's 10 people in the crowd, and I'm like, well, why am I doing this? I'm not really enjoying it. I'm gonna tell you what. I came to visit Nashville. A friend of mine took me around and really sold me on the place. Everybody I met told me, you need to move to Nashville. We need more people like you here. I was like, oh, okay. I went back to Cleveland. I'm playing the 500th wedding, dragging my gear through a greasy kitchen for the 100th time. Right. Get up on stage. It's a wedding reception. The mother of the bride is over on the side of the stage screaming something at the band. And in that moment, I realized how cool Nashville was, how musically oriented it was. The entire business was about music, and how there's all these digital studios everywhere. Digital was a big deal at the time.
Right.
And I decided right then and right there, right in the middle of the bridge of Watch What Happens.
No coincidence.
I never thought of that. But yeah, I was moving to Nashville. I called the bass player over. We're playing the song. I called him over. I said, hey, Jack, come here. Guess what? I said, F this. I'm moving to Nashville. I just decided right then and there. And in 3 months, I was gone.
Yeah. And how long, because starting over in a new town like Nashville or LA or New York, any one of those big music towns, can be challenging.
Oh, it was. I couldn't get arrested I slept on couches for basically a year because I was sleeping on a couch with a buddy here in Nashville, beating the streets trying to find a gig. By the way, having a Grammy in Nashville is kind of like, oh, really? That's cute. You got a car, huh? It's the same as having a car.
Right.
I mean, there's so many Grammys. That ain't impressing nobody. So I was like, hey, I have an R&B Grammy Award. Well, okay, good. Well, good for you. Allison's got 29 or 30 of them.
Yeah, right.
So I was sleeping on a couch here. I was going back to Cleveland on the weekends to play weddings, begging for a $300 wedding.
Right.
Sleep on a buddy's couch there. Drive back to Nashville. Repeat. Sleep on a couch. Beat the streets. And there is no manual. There is no owner's manual on how to do this. And your people should know this because it's word of mouth. You have to be really good at what you do. I met a recording engineer here, and when I visited right before I moved, and I asked him, I was thinking about moving at the time. I said, so you think there's room for another keyboard player in Nashville? And I will never forget what he said. He goes, well, there's always room for great. I don't know about just good.
Oh, wow. Very true.
It's absolutely true. It's like you have to be great right now when that red light comes on. And just good. Nashville is full of just good.
Yeah.
But to stay and have staying power, you've got to be, and the word is great. And I ain't saying I am, but I know how to play with singers because I love singers. And I played with horn players before singers, and I love to accompany them. And I think they both appreciate it.
So let's talk about, because this is an interesting thing, and I teach, so I'm always like, practice. You have to practice. What did your practice look like? Do you still practice? How did you get to do this? Like, was it hours and hours, or listening, or taking lessons, or what did it look like?
No, I've never studied. Studied, yes. I've never taken a piano lesson. Wow. And I just have really good ears. I don't have perfect pitch, but I have almost perfect, what they call relative pitch. I've got great relative pitch, and I understand. I practiced a lot, and I practiced speed and velocity and chops and licks and all that stuff when I thought I was a jazz gunslinger, until I finally realized that none of that it's important for your facility. It's important for your command of the instrument. I will not use the word mastery because I am not a master. But to command the instrument and make it do what you want it to do, you kind of have to be at one with it. And that takes a lot of work and a lot of feedback, and a lot of almost like biofeedback with an instrument.
Yeah.
But I mean, for instance, you might be like this. Almost every electronic keyboard has got a transpose button, right?
Right.
So you can play in one key and then hit the transpose button. And even though you're playing the same keys physically, it's sounding, let's say, a half step flat.
Right.
That bugs the piss out of me.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I'd rather be terrible in one key, let's say G flat,
right,
than transpose a keyboard and play, because I say I don't have perfect pitch, but when I look at my hands and I'm looking at G, but I'm hearing F sharp, man, I can't do it. I mean, it bothers me on a weird kind of OCD level.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've got to practice. That's a given. But you've got to love it, and you have to be constantly questioning and trying to learn. Like I say, I've never had a piano lesson ever, and I'm sure there are holes in my technique, but there's no holes in my ear, and there's no holes in my soul. That is
right.
I mean, I love the way a single note sung by a singer affects the chord I play underneath that one note. It's my job is done when somebody in the audience gets a tear because of that. And Trisha Yearwood can do that.
Oh, she's master of that. Yes. She just has so much emotion pour through her voice. Yeah, she's phenomenal.
So
Absolutely.
practice scales. I'm sorry, I'm going to go against the grain here. I've
That's
never really practiced scales, because when it's time to play a solo, if you play a scale on a solo when I grew up, they'd ask you to go sit your ass down. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, get your ass off the stage. You're playing scales. No, scales are for facility and for ear training. Nobody plays scales in a song. I don't practice scales. You know what I practice? I practice Bach. For piano, because it's all 10 fingers. It's beautifully constructed actual music, right? What's the old saying that music teachers tell you? Don't play notes, play music.
Right.
Right? Play music. And that's what I try to do, is play music. And the notes and the scales, it's like, it's not important to me, and I don't know a lot of that stuff. I actually don't. I'm completely self-taught. I'm a street level musician.
But this brings up something for me too that I think is so important. And again, something that you and I have shared and talked about this is that you have to listen to the people that came before you.
You do.
To facilitate new ideas and new learning in yourself. And I think there's a danger in younger artists who don't know the history.
Yeah, and I think there are very few artists that I cannot point to an influence on them. And two come to mind. One of them, for me, tell me if you agree, is when I sit around and try to think about who the influences were on Billie Eilish, I ain't got any. Yes. Jacob Collier, I ain't got any. I mean, those are two, in my opinion, two generational talents. And But aside from them, like Bruno Mars, I mean, I can absolutely hear all of his TSOP, The Sound of Philadelphia, Motown, Memphis, all the stuff that really influenced me as a kid. He's kind of retro influenced by it.
Yeah.
It's not his generation, but he's gone back and picked that stuff up. And I can tell it's that James Brown and Prince were a huge influence.
Absolutely.
But Billie Eilish, I don't know. Jacob Collier, I think he's from outer space. He's a freak.
Yeah, he's a one of a kind, and
he's
in the best
one of one, no question.
in the best possible way. And we were talking about how Trisha Yearwood always says her influence is Linda Ronstadt.
Absolutely.
Which, Linda was an amazing vocalist and one of the first women to handle stadium rock tours.
Yeah.
You know?
True enough. Her band was the Eagles.
Yeah. Yeah. So. Quite a start.
Yeah, I think Trisha still wants to be Ronstadt. She'll tell you that in private. She really will.
Well, I mean, you couldn't have a better, person, a mentor or influence to have than Linda Ronstadt. She was an incredible singer. So,
and the next time you hear a Ronstadt song, or the next time you hear a Yearwood song, think Ronstadt, and you'll go, duh, of course.
Yeah.
You can hear it.
Well, I mean, it just gives you so many new things to try. And we're like, hey, I wonder if I could do that. Or I wonder how they did that. And then you start trying stuff and you start finding new things in your own playing or your own voice that you can go, wow, that was cool.
Right. And you start going back to your influences, mm-hmm. and really get to the root of the matter, like I say, with very few exceptions.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I mean, as far as I listen to everything. You should see my playlist of stuff. I mean, I seriously like metal and funk and R&B and classical painting all day today. I was listening to Bach.
Wow.
So, right. And I love all of it. I mean, I still play and listen to jazz, but it's more just to get around the instrument of piano.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. If I were to start a band of my own today, it would be basically I would just kidnap the band that Justin Timberlake had about 5 years ago.
Oh yeah. Oh right? Yeah.
I want horns. I want 3 keyboards. I want 2 guitar players. I want drums, percussion, boatload of background singers, mm-hmm. all doing R&B. That's what I would do.
Yeah. That's an amazing time for him. What are so give us three records that every piano player, every B3 player out there should go to and listen to.
Well, for Hammond, I mean, any Jimmy Smith, mm-hmm. Walk on the Wild Side is a good one because it's with Oliver Nelson's big band, or any Joey DeFrancesco. I mean, actually, Joey is the better. Let me take an aside here. I don't think there's any such thing as who's the best drummer. It's like, I think there is no such thing. I think there is your favorite drummer.
Right.
Right. But the best drummer, I mean, you're going to tell me that Ringo isn't a great drummer? Yeah, he is. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. I mean, he is, but is he like Billy Cobham or Elvin Jones or
different styles?
Lamar Lewis? He's not exactly. So as far as the greatest, I think there's only your favorites, but you cannot go wrong with Jimmy Smith and Joey DeFrancesco. And I would say Jimmy McGriff, all 3 on Hammond. Mm-hmm. As far as piano, there's hands down. I'm afraid to mention this man's name because he could almost make you not ever play again. People, if you don't know who Art Tatum is.
Oh God. Yeah.
You must find and listen to Art Tatum. He's been gone since 1956 and he's still the most amazing pianist on the 88 keys that I've ever heard. To this day. Yeah. I mean, it's just overwhelming technique. The other would be Oscar Peterson.
Yeah.
Keith Jarrett. But Keith Jarrett's got a whole other spiritual thing going on, but the chords really speak to me. I mean, I don't know about you. I'm one of these, the right note on top of the right chord, mm-hmm. without a word spoken, without a lyric, just a note and a chord. If I'm in the right mood, it'll bring a tear to my eye.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm always trying to do with you, with Trisha, with Sarah Evans, with Alison Krauss, with Winona, with all of them. I'm trying to do what I think my number one and only job is. I've always said this. My job is to frame the vocal. Nobody cares about my chops or my practice that day or what I listened to that day or what kind of gear I have. Only gear freaks care about that stuff. What I'm interested in is in the audience being affected by that song and that lyric and that singer and that chord. I'm telling you, that's what I'm out to do every single night. I'm not after anybody saying, man, what a great piano player that guy is. It's like, okay, that's what I do, but I'm about the song.
Right.
The song and what it means to people and how it can affect them it's everything to me. It really is more so than chops, more so than blazing licks of fury. Is like, no, nobody cares, man. That's why I stopped playing in jazz clubs.
Yeah.
Because nobody cares but the other musicians who came in to hear me, and I don't need to impress them.
Well, we go back to this thing. It's about the audience experience. It's about the people who are listening to you. They may, and I've heard this said too, they may forget what you do or what you say, but they will never forget how you made them feel.
True. Absolutely.
So if they can leave your show and have gone on this journey of feelings with you, I think feeling and emotion is what connects us as human beings.
It is. And that's why jazz, in the overarching definition of the word, misses so many people. Mm-hmm. It seems like jazz musicians are who listens to jazz.
Right.
Now, let me quickly say there's as many different types of jazz as there are cheese.
Exactly. Oh, that's right? Very true.
And I would say my favorite type of cheese is put out by Count Basie.
Oh gosh.
And you are shorting yourself if you don't listen to the Frank Sinatra records that have Count Basie doing the charts.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, those are amazing.
There's no more hard swinging band in history than that one. And I love Count Basie.
Well, and to me, and I grew up with big band stuff, obviously. So that speaks to me, and it's fun, and it takes the audience and it lifts them, and it just brings this joy to the room when you hear that big band stuff and those just amazingly lush chords that whole horn section makes. It's just beautiful.
I defy anyone out there to listen to a Count Basie chart and not tap your foot.
Impossible.
It's impossible. That band swings so damn hard. It's unbelievable. But I don't know. It's to me, all of this different music, I'm serious about this. To me, it's all spokes in a wheel, and there is room for all of it.
Oh, right? Absolutely.
There is spokes in a wheel and there's room for all of it, and you got to have all of it. I mean, I've been listening to a lot of choral music, a lot of Christian choral music. Mm-hmm. And I love choirs because, anyway, because the chord, man, I'm looking for the chord that'll make you, cry in your drink or your coffee. I really am. Mm-hmm. Because it has affected me like that.
It's beautiful.
When I was out with Alison Krauss, I was going through a difficult personal time, but she's got a song called Ghost in This House.
Oh, my favorite tune.
Oh, my God. And every night I'm playing that with her, and I'm fighting back tears just listening to her and playing piano for her. That song, I still can't hardly hear it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't. I've never heard her do that live. I've sung it live a couple of times, and it's... Yeah, that's a tune.
You're going to hear her sing it live because, hey, Allison, if you're listening, I have a board recording that we did live that she does not know I have.
No.
And that's one of the songs. And when we're done here, I will send that to you.
Oh my gosh, I will just turn off the lights and put it through my big speakers, and I will probably play it like 8 billion times tonight.
Oh my gosh, it sounds like a record. I can tell you that. It really does.
I imagine. And that's the other thing, that I'm struck by is the consistency of the performance and how much all of these people give consistently, at that level. And speaking now to people and students who want to perform really at any level, the best artists, the ones that have the longevity, I think are the ones that consistently deliver this honesty. Is that
Right.
the right word?
It is.
I'm not sure I like the word authenticity. It's overused
Right.
and sort of.
No, I agree. I agree. I can tell you this, as long as I've known Trisha, and she says this, and it's true from everything I hear. If you're familiar with her albums, she told me, she tells everybody, that she has never picked a song thinking it. She never purposely chose a song brought to her to record because she was hoping for a hit. I mean, her first record came out, She's in Love with the Boy. It's a huge hit. It's her first single, and it sets her on her way, right? So that whole record was what it was. The next album was called Hearts and Armor. So after she finishes that record, she takes it to her record label and to the publicity and the A&R guys. And she's playing it for them. And, dude's sitting behind his desk and he's stroking the whiskers on his chin and he's looking up at the ceiling. He's like, yeah. I just don't hear, She's in Love with the Boy on this record.
Oh, I don't hear a hit.
Right. And she goes, well, there's not, but there is a Walk Away Joe on this record, asshole. Right. I mean, because really, no, there is, she's moving on. And Walk Away Joe with Don Henley singing it with her, that was also a number one, by the way.
Right.
It's like, that just shows you that record people then are chasing the last hit that somebody had. We need She's in Love with the Boy again, only slightly different now, so that a bunch of people will buy it. And she goes, no, I got Don Henley to sing an amazing ballad with me as a duet. How about that? Number one.
Yep.
Just saying.
Well, and this, I think it's still that way. I think, companies are out for earning money. And I think the artists, like, she knew who she was enough to say no to guys who had, money, theoretically controlling this record that she's doing. She had enough heart and soul and knew who she was and what was right for her and what was right for her audience to stand up and say, no, that's not who I am.
And to just choose songs that spoke to her.
Right.
Right? I mean, she's got a song, album cuts. There's one called Under the Rainbow. There's one called Little Hercules. It's just like, oh my gosh, they're amazing songs. Never got played on the radio. She gives a damn. She's picking great songs because she loves great songs and goes with her producer on picking a single. But she's had a string of number one hits.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that goes back. That's one great thing about the digital era there now, though, Jilla, is because we were talking about Billie Eilish and we were talking about Jacob Collier. Both these people, what they do, recorded each of their first albums in their room.
Yeah. Yeah. It's incredible.
With her brother in Billie Eilish's case, and with Jacob by his damn self, except when he wrote out orchestra parts and actually went into a studio and got the orchestra to play the stuff that he had written. But otherwise, everything was in his room in Pro Tools.
Well, but I love Billie Eilish too. I'm a huge fan, and I've listened to lots of interviews, and they have fun recording. They do music and they put stuff in that they find interesting and cool and fun. Like they have a crosswalk sign that she recorded with her phone from Australia, like I think an Australian trip or something. Like and when they talk about their music, you can just see the love and the joy and the passion for what they're doing because they love what they do.
I tell you what, I mean, she's such a big deal. I still remember, I remember the first Jacob Collier song I heard too, but I remember the first time I ever heard Billie Eilish and I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
And it was, You Should See Me in a Crown. And I was like, oh my God, who is this person? I got to have this record.
Yeah.
So.
And for her, for both of them really being so young, it's just, that's insane.
Yeah, and just doing it. And once again, don't need a record label. I mean, what do you need a record label for?
Right.
to record your record? No, do that at home with your brother on Pro Tools.
But
right? I mean,
the thing is, they're doing it and they're making good music too. You know,
yeah,
I
they
mean,
are.
they're great songs.
I mean, there's something to be said for that, and they've mastered it, but I still believe in playing with other people, especially as a young player coming up, because
Right.
playing back with tracks by yourself is great to develop your own playing, but there's a whole human interaction that you're not getting that you need to play on a band with a bass player. Oh, I just saw a funny license plate tag just this afternoon. It said, like most musicians, you're following a bass player, which is, in his case, is actually true. I've always gotten my time from bass players and never from drummers, and
Right.
bass players and drummers both seem shocked by that. But it's the way I hear it. I hear it from I think drummers should be free to play what I call pulse, and I need that bass player to be giving me time, not drummer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have an interesting, and if you'll go over this again, just for musicians that are listening, because we're doing some funk and some groove stuff, and the placement of the actual downbeat, and you've talked about it like a train. Can you explain that again?
I played with the drummer a long time ago. I don't know where I came up with this analogy. I'd love to claim it as my own, but I don't remember where I got it. But I was trying to get him to what we call laid back. It's pretty self-explanatory, right? Not be right on the beat every time. It's like that's so regimented, and there's all kinds of places to play on that downbeat, slightly ahead, right in the middle of it, slightly behind, way behind on purpose.
Right.
But the bluegrass guys, I found this out from Alice and Krauss. Man, they play on the front edge of everything.
Yeah.
It's like, it feels like it's getting faster. It's not. It's just on the front edge of the very front edge of the beat. There's an art to that. Anyway, I was trying to tell this drummer how to lay back, and he was not getting it. I was like, look, man, imagine a train going down the track, right? There's a locomotive in front. There's the cars in the middle, and then there's the caboose. When they come to a crossing, the locomotive gets there first, then the cars in the middle, and then the caboose is last. But they're all going the same speed. They just arrive at a different time. I said, you understand? He's like, nope. It's like, nope. Dude, I want you to be the caboose. I want you to don't play slower, play later. Not slower, later. Right. And it gives a whole wonky kind of feel to the groove. That's what makes a groove, man. With the quantizing beats in a computer, there's nothing soulful about it. There's nothing human about it.
Right.
Human beings do not play like that.
No.
And when I do stuff like that on my computer, I make sure that it sounds as effed up as possible, right? Questlove said that he was told to just, he goes, yeah, man, lay back, just play like you're drunk. Oh my gosh.
I've had that request when I do studio work, and like that's how they tell, like, play like you're 3 tequilas in. I'm like, oh, got it.
There's a great bass player I know, you probably do too, it's Steve Mackey.
Yes.
He told me he was doing an independent rock thing once, and the producer was in the room with him going, yeah, man, I just need you guys to play like, I need you to play like you barely know how, like you're a garage band. And he's pointing to the guitar player and goes, yeah, man, you need to, do this and that. And the drummer, he's going, and I need you to kind of go out this direction, do that. And he goes to Steve Mackey and he goes, you're doing great. And Mackey's like, what? Yeah, you sound like you don't know how to play. You're doing great.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Steve, one of the best players ever.
One of the best. He's my absolute favorite in Nashville, period.
Oh yeah, he's phenomenal. He's phenomenal.
But it's important to be able to play all over the beat on command, right?
Yeah.
Play in the front on purpose, play right in the middle on purpose, play in the back on purpose, and work on that. on every instrument.
Yeah, and different styles too. I mean, we're going over this in class right now, how the importance of being able to play stylistically accurate if someone needs you to play rock or funk or blues or bluegrass or,
Yeah, yeah, it's tough. I mean, fortunately, I didn't have to play the bluegrass songs when I was out with Alison Krauss. Me and the drummer, she took me and a drummer out on that tour, and we just sat while Union Station did their thing. But on the ballads and the mid tempo stuff, that was not actually bluegrass. Because I challenge you to quickly name a bluegrass piano player. Okay, go.
Yeah,
Right.
that one.
Yeah, there ain't one. So,
Right.
but all the other styles, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I play them because I love them all.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, I can play rock and pop and absolutely funk and R&B and country.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of limited beyond that. I can't really play classical except for myself at home a little bit, but ain't nobody going out to a classical gig anyway, are they?
Right.
But it's important to have that ear training and that recognition of what different styles are.
Yeah, very much.
Right. I mean, you get in a box, man. You're just going to stay there. I know a great guitar player who's absolutely stuck in the 80s. And I'm like, dude, come on, man. I mean, I like that stuff too, but I can play a lot more stuff than that, and he can't. And he's not interested in any more stuff than any of that stuff. Anything other than that sort of cut your head off rock and roll, guitar shredding.
Right.
When there's so much more, I'm like, man, there's chords and there's melodies and there's harmonies and, there's songs.
Well, I mean, that only serves one style of song,
True enough. And he's stuck right there, and bless his heart. I won't mention his name, but
yeah,
feel sorry for him. I tried forever to get him out of that. And you'll get stuck in that if you're not careful.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
in whatever it is.
For me, it's about growing as an artist. I can't imagine being stuck doing the same thing I was doing when I was, 20.
Right.
Please.
No, I can't either. But isn't it amazing how many oldies songs there are, Jilla? I mean, think about it. Anytime you're out, name it. A gig, a wedding gig.
Oh, God.
If it's not a live band, what's the DJ playing? He's playing I Will Survive and Donna Summer and Kool and the Gang and Earth, Wind, and Fire. I'd be happy with Earth, Wind, and Fire all damn night myself. But,
right.
But because those records are still amazing. But I mean, I'm still surprised at the stuff that's still getting played. It's old, very old.
Well, and you mentioned Justin Timberlake. Like, I loved that whole period of time for him too, because he was taking some of the old stuff and like revamping it and adding new stuff to it. And that's why that record was just amazing.
I mean, that band was outstanding.
Yeah.
I just wanted to kidnap the entire band. That would be my band.
Yeah, that was
or
really...
any one of Prince's later bands. Just any one of those two. I'd take them all.
Oh, he was phenomenal. there are very few words for him either, because they don't say enough, He was amazing.
Yeah, he was.
Well, what are we forgetting to tell young people that are coming up today? Any words of advice or anything that I have forgotten to ask you that they should really know about?
Not really, except how Trent Reznor kept me off of a recording credit.
Oh, no, you never got credit for that song?
No. And frankly, I'm pretty sure I don't deserve it, because what it was is, any Nine Inch Nails fans, I knew Trent back when he was recording that first album called Pretty Hate Machine.
Right.
Because we were both working in the same studio as engineers. And as long as he would do sessions for the owner would let him overnight, when the place was closed, all night long, work on his own stuff by himself, which he did. So I'd come in every morning at 10 a.m. for my session, and he's still wrapping up from the night before. One day he asked me to punch in a vocal. Look that up, kids. Look up punch in a vocal. because he was trying to sing a part and hit the record button at the same time, and he didn't have the remote with him out in the vocal booth. So I came walking, and he goes, "Man, punch this vocal for me." So I did, and I don't know if he kept the part or not, but if he did keep it, he didn't give me a recording credit for the one line I punched on Pretty Hate Machine.
But, you know, another great example of somebody like they love what they're doing and they're taking music and adding something new. Like when those guys hit, they're a band I love too. And I just remember hearing them going, "What? What is this?" And
I told him after he played that album, after he got the album done, we had a listening party in that studio. As soon as it was ended, I just looked over and I said, "Man, you're going to be a star." And yeah, covered Rolling Stone twice. The savior of rock and roll, they called him.
Wow.
I was right. So.
Yeah. But I mean, he had the work ethic. You don't stay up all night and then have to do sessions the next day. I mean, that's the love of, and we get back to, I think that's a great, just reminder and sort of thread of this whole thing is because you love it.
I think you have to love it because otherwise it's been a pretty not good as a business model. It sucks. How many times have you heard people say the music business sucks? And it does. And it probably sucks harder now than it ever has. Mm-hmm. But because of the transition from physical product for sale to streaming. And that's why, like I say, that's why there's a bunch of old rock bands who are touring that don't want to be touring, but they have to.
Right.
So, but no, you have to love it because if you're doing it for the money, oh man.
Yeah.
Wrong business.
Yeah. Love something else.
Yeah, good advice. But I mean, I had blinders on since I was middle teens. Mm-hmm. And I'm still the same way in a lot of ways. I truly am in terms of the love I have for it and how much I work on it almost daily. And I don't practice like I used to. I don't practice the hard pianistic stuff every day like I used to. Mm-hmm. What I do now is figure out awesome chords that intrigue me and figure out how I can use them. Mm-hmm. So I'm more about chords and melody, and chops are important, but they're not as important as, like we were saying, the singer and the song and the lyric.
Yeah. And you listen. I mean, not only do you listen in the live moment, you listen to the band and the chord that you're playing and the singer and the audience and the mood of the room, but you listen on your off time to all these great bands and artists and all these new artists. I mean, you continually listen and learn.
Yeah, I am. It's true. It's because I love what I do. And I'm continuously amazed and astonished by music. Every day it's like every day's a new day for me in terms of, wow, what was that?
Right.
Including some stuff that I heard, wow, what was that? I had to sound hound it to make sure that I never heard it again.
Oh, really?
Have you heard of a band called Mr. Wives?
No, I have not.
Well, good. Keep it that way.
Oh God. Okay.
I heard something in a restaurant or something the other day, and I was like, I actually said out loud, I'm not kidding. I said, "Stop making that noise." I said that. And I was like, what in the world? I pulled up my phone, got it on SoundHound, found out what it was so that I can totally avoid them like the plague.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. See, I'm that audio OCD guy. I don't have OCD at all except for audio.
The thing you don't want to have happen in music is people to go, I will never listen to your music again.
It's called, once again, the name of the song is Our Own House by the artist known as Mr. Wives.
Okay. All
so
right.
I'm sorry if I've offended anyone out there, but frankly, I'm to the age I don't GAF anymore. So,
well, there's music for everybody in every moment, and, somebody clearly likes them, so.
I guess.
More power to them and their fans.
I guess more power to you, and and your projects, by the way.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm just trying to, but I thank you for doing this. I mean, this is for me getting to speak with someone like you and having you share all of your insights with the students, because I see them daily and I know how hard they're working and I know how scary the industry can be. And to have someone like you share what you've done and, the things that are important to you and how you've gotten where you are, it's really, this is an important thing that we are able to give back to them.
I can say that I had some talent and I really developed it myself, but I stayed at it when everybody else got wives and kids and in jobs at insurance companies. I was banging around in bars because I wanted to play my instrument all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And this is important. When I was a kid, I'm 13, 14 maybe, I wanted to play keyboards. I wanted to play before I ever had any idea whatsoever that you could get paid for doing it.
Right.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
And I also had no idea that girls like musicians. I found out both of these later, but I wanted to play before I had any idea that it was a paying thing.
Yeah.
Honest to God, it's the truth. And I think that still is part of my impetus, and the reason why I still play is because, man, it gives me tremendous joy to play my instrument.
Yeah. And we come full circle again to joy and love of what you do.
Absolutely.
So
you gotta love it, because otherwise you're going to be in a world of hurt.
Yeah. Well, Steve, thank you so much for sharing your time with all of us tonight. This has been amazing, and keep doing what you do, because we love hearing you out there on the big stages and the smaller stages and whatever stages you're on. We want to hear you continue to play.
Well, you have an important job too, and you know it. So keep up the good work with these students in your podcast, and your stuff too is killing. Call me, I'll play on your stuff again.
I will, absolutely. It's coming out. I got new stuff for you to play on.
Okay, cool.
All right, cool. Well, I will talk to you later. Thank you so much, Steve.
Thanks, Jilla.
Thanks for joining us today. Building your best life and career is about finding balance in everything you do. So build your life on purpose, and you'll find success, happiness, and peace. And remember, whatever stage you're on today, walk with purpose.